Hi everybody! So today is June 22nd, so it's the 19th day of my trip, and I am still here in the redwoods, very much enjoying my time here. The weather has been pretty pleasant. It did rain the night before last a little bit, so a few things got damp. If you are not a camper, then you might not know that when it rains and the outside of your tent gets wet, you really don't want to touch the sides of it because then the water can come in. Well, unfortunately, the cot that I have set up in my tent is just a little bit big. It does fit, but it touches the sides. So just the very edges of things got a little damp, but that dried out through the day, and last night I didn't have any problems. So um, uh, some fun things have been happening back here at the campsite. So the first one is this tree behind me. There's a couple of like really enormous mushrooms growing under it, and when I first got here I took pictures of them, and over the last couple of days they have, I don't know what the word is, bloomed, opened. And so I got some pictures of, the transformation of that. And they are like that big around. They're huge. I don't know what kind of mushroom they are. I'm not a mycologist. Definitely not going to try to eat them because that is not recommended. I went to a talk on mycology when I was in college, and the expert said there are old mushroom hunters and bold mushroom hunters. There are no bold old mushroom hunters. So got to be careful when you're dealing with fungus. So then in the site behind me, they left this morning, but for the last few days, there's been a group of people, mostly from California, but it turns out one of them was from Sterling, Illinois. So we had a little chat, and that was lovely. And then they found a banana slug in their site, so I was able to get some pictures of that, and it was huge. It was like, last year I saw a few, they were like 2-3 inches long, but this one was like 6 inches. It was massive. So that was cool. And banana slugs are sort of one of the ambassador species here, because they are so easily identifiable and they move slow so people can see them. I found in one of the visitor centers a plushie of a banana slug that was really cute. Not gonna get it because it's not my thing, but it was really cute. And then I also finally got to make my first real camp meal the other night, and I just fried up some vegetables. I roasted a potato in the fire, and warmed up a sausage. But it was really nice. Had a nice glass of wine with it. So yeah, it was really nice to just be able to relax and have a good meal that I made myself. And actually, I'm finding that this camp stove that I have, which is a propane powered one, I'm almost better at cooking on it than I am at my gas stove at home. I don't know what it is, but haven't burnt anything yet, so that's fantastic. And then last night after dinner, I was roasting some marshmallows over the embers of the fire that was left, and my marshmallow caught fire, and so I brought the stick up to blow my marshmallow out because I don't like them when they're burnt, but apparently I brought it up too fast and flung it over my shoulder, so I had this flaming marshmallow fly through the air over my shoulder, and it landed on my camp chair, which is made of nylon, so essentially plastic, and it got stuck. But I did manage to get the fire out. My chair did not catch fire, so but that was just a funny little moment from the night. So, yesterday I went out and explored the park a little bit. Now, the thing about the Redwood National Forest or National Parks is that it is actually a series of parks all the way down the coast, and they are co-administrated between the federal government and the state of California. So they are national and state parks, and they're the only ones that are like that in the country. There is this major one that I'm at up here in the north, but then there's more further south. And one of the things that I'm going to highly recommend to anybody that goes to a national park, the National Park Service has an app. Download it because it's going to have all the good details in it. All the parks are in there with, and even like national monuments and, like historic sites and all that kind of stuff. There's all the details right there at your fingertips. And you can also download different parks so that you don't have to worry about if you don't have service, because obviously in a lot of the parks there's no service on your phone. So, but one of the things that they have on there is these self-guided tours. So they have like a list of sites that you can go to and what you can see at each of the sites. So I went ahead and one of the tours is called The Whole Park in a Day. It's like a 12-hour thing if you do the whole thing. But of course, I skipped a few parts. So I started at, I think it's pronounced Hayuchi Visitor Center, which is in the far north end of the park, which is where I am. Near Crescent City. And inside the visitor center, they have one of those walls that has a bunch of like words on it, and you can like make haikus and things out of it. So I went ahead and made a haiku and took a picture of that. And then on one of the other walls, they have a like wedge of a really, really old redwood tree, and on it they have all of these markers for different things that have happened in history. And this particular one is like 2,400 years old or something like that. Well, no, I guess it was like 1,400 because I think it started in like 680. And just different historical things that have happened throughout the years of this tree's life, which was pretty cool. And then I stopped into their what do you call it? The like gift shop thing. And I got this book, which I am very intrigued to read. I love when nature can inspire science to be better. And I think a lot of these ideas are going to be cool stuff to be able to tell my students about. I do a thing called Weird Wednesdays, Weird, Wild, and Wonderful Wednesdays, where at the beginning of class I just do like a little brief presentation on, something that's weird and related to science, just to sort of, get their interest. And I think there's going to be some cool stuff in here for me to be able to use for that. After I stopped at the visitor center, then I went over to the Grove of Titans, which I had visited last year, and I loved it so much I wanted to make sure that I went back and saw it again. And I did not hike the trail so much as I meandered the trail. It's pretty short, it's only about a mile, but every step of the way there is so much to see that if you're really just like focused on getting to the destination, then you're gonna miss out on a whole lot. So the first thing that you're going to notice when you come into the redwoods is that like everything is covered in moss. Like everything. The sides of the roads, the trees, the ground, everything is covered in moss. And lots of different types of moss too. There's also a lot of ferns in the redwood forest, and that has a lot to do with the fact that it is a rainforest. So moss and ferns are both really ancient types of plants, and they do not have pollen or seeds. They actually have, so what pollen is the best way to describe it is kind of like a testicle. So it is a almost an organ that is going to, once it lands where it needs to be, it is going to create sperm, and then those sperm are going to go down a pollen tube into the female parts of the plant and fertilize an egg. And so the pollen protects the sperm on its journey to the female part of the plant. Well, since moss and ferns do not have that, they have to rely on very, very wet environments for the sperm to be able to swim through to get to the female parts of the plant. So that's why you don't find moss growing on a rock in the desert. It just can't survive. It can't reproduce itself. It might be able to survive for a short period, but it's not going to be able to reproduce. So here, because it's wet all the time, those types of plants are able to reproduce and grow in abundance. I got a really cool picture of a fern frond that was just starting to grow. They're called fiddleheads, and you can see that it has that spiral shape at the top, and that's how they unfurl, which I think is really cool. I love to watch that happening on like motion or the what do you call them? You know, the videos where they speed things up. Getting to the Grove of Titans is already a journey. As you come to the road that the trailhead is on, you'll see this sign that says rough, winding road. And they are not joking. There are a bunch of places where it's so narrow because there's trees on both sides that only one car can fit through. And so there were several times where I had to I was coming through and there's another car coming at me. And I'm the only one that has space on the side of the road. So I had to back up and get into that space so that they could come through and get past. So you're idling all the way through there, 10, 15 miles an hour. And not only that, but of course, there's lots of people who are parked on the sides of the road. So not nearly like some of the other parks. If you want an experience of a park where it's not overly crowded, this is definitely one to go to. Sure, there's other people, but it's not like you're waiting in line to do things like at Sequoia and at Yellowstone. And one of the really cool things as I was walking the trail was I heard at least 6 different languages. I know that there was German and Russian and Spanish and either Hindi or Tamil. I'm not sure. I don't know my Indian languages very well. Chinese. Just a whole bunch of people from all around the world come here. So that's really cool for me. Then as I was traversing the path, there's a couple of places where there are some trees that have fallen over and are above the path that you have to kind of go under, and those are really cool and fun to see. Then there is even some burn damage in the rainforest. There's one tree that I failed to get a picture of on my way in, and didn't see it on my way back. I was kind of looking for it, but it is one where you can see burn damage at the base of it, and I have a picture from last year. I'll try to find that and put it up here. But it is sort of inside of the bark, and the tree is still happy and thriving. So just like the sequoias, the trees here, once they're mature, are very, very resistant to fire damage. So that's cool to see. Then speaking of the bark, one of the really interesting things about the redwoods that I love is that their bark is so deeply grooved that it provides a place for lots of little critters to hide in, lots of insects and things like that. And then I got this picture of a cool spider web. The spiders love to go in there, by the way. And I see spider webs on these trees all the time. So let's see, what was next? Also the roots of these trees obviously have to be really big, and they stretch out. And like I said in the video about the sequoias, the redwoods also have very shallow roots. And so those roots will just go anywhere. But I got some cool pictures of where one log had fallen and then another tree is growing on top of it, and you can see all the roots growing along the tree. And they're huge. They're like that big around. Very cool stuff. And then of course the best part of the walk, I think, is this one place where a huge redwood has fallen right next to where another huge redwood is growing, and it's actually covered over the top. And so there's this tiny little tunnel that you have to walk through between one big fallen dead redwood and one growing live one. And it's incredibly magical. It's like, walking through the door to Narnia or something like that. It's something that I got giddy about remembering from last year, and then being able to do it again this year. It was very, very cool. And then there are, once you get into the actual grove, that's where all those elevated platforms are for you to walk on, and because they don't want you to be squashing down the soil and making it hard for the tree's roots to grow. But there is this one magnificent tree that has a platform like all the way around it, and it isn't haughty and named like some of the sequoias, but it is just enormous and gorgeous, and it has this huge, very interesting burl that comes out of one side of it, that almost looks like a second tree is just growing up out of the side of it. So I got some pictures of that tree, which may actually be the best tree in the world. I haven't decided yet, but I'm leaning towards it. And there's a couple of spots where the trail sort of goes off to the side a little bit, and there are some like overlooks of Mill Creek that runs through the area. Very pretty and relaxing, and there was even a moment that I got where there was nobody else around, and I was just standing there and staring at the water and listening to it bubble along, and it was quite the moment of zen. And so by this time it was getting to be about lunchtime, so I went ahead and headed back. It only takes about, if you just like straight walk through, it takes about maybe half an hour to get from the grove back to the road. And as I was almost back to the road, I came around a corner and boom, deer. There was this little, I think it's a blacktail, because it was way smaller than a whitetail deer. And she was just standing there munching, had no issues about me. And I managed to get some really cute pictures. And then some other people came along, and I heard them coming up the path, so I shushed them and pointed at her, and they just stood there with me, and we watched her for a little while, but then they made some noise and she wandered off. So then I went ahead and got back in the car, drove the rest of the way down that road very slowly and very carefully. And then I went to the next stop that was on the tour, which is where the mouth of the Klamath River leads into the Pacific Ocean. There's an overlook there with a picnic area that was really beautiful. I got some great pictures there. And it was pretty windy, which wasn't a problem for me. But there was another family that came, and both of the small kids, maybe like, 5 and 6 years old, sat down with their paper plates of food, and the wind just whoosh, took their plates and their food, which made the Stellar's Jays very happy because now they get free food. But the kids started crying a little bit because now they didn't have their food. But I think the family, I wasn't paying too much attention, but I think they like packed up and went somewhere else that wasn't quite so windy so that they could go ahead and eat. But there were some really cool plants that were growing in the area. There was a bunch of lupine, which unfortunately there was nowhere for me to stop and pull over on the road to get pictures of it. But there was this really cool orange flower, which again, I don't know what it is, but it was, it kind of looked like a poppy. I don't know. I'll have to see if Seek can tell me what kind of flower it is. But there was also a ton of blackberry bushes all the way along. There was a wooden fence along the edge so that people don't get too close to the cliff and fall off. And on the other side of that, on the cliff side of it, it was just blackberry bushes all the way around. And I don't know if those were maybe planted to help keep people on the right side of that fence, or if they are wild. But I have noticed at a lot of places where there's a cliff, there are raspberry or blackberry bushes, because those bushes are, they grow very densely and they are full of thorns. So people don't tend to walk through things like that. Then after that, I went to the next thing that was on the list, and it was a scenic byway. So 101 is the major highway that runs through here, and then there's this little offshoot of it that goes right alongside of 101, but over into the redwoods. And it's about 10 miles long, and so I went over there and drove through the redwoods, seeing a little bit more of what there is to see. And then I went ahead and came back. I got back here at about 5:30, and made dinner, hung out by the fire, spent a good portion of the evening just kind of sitting and staring at the fire, which is what you do when you're camping. And, you know, just hanging out with my own thoughts for a while, which was nice. The real world gets very loud, and sometimes it's hard to hear yourself thinking. So just being able to disconnect from everything for a while is really nice. One of the things that I love about camping. Then I went to bed. I've been sleeping actually pretty good. Got up about 7 o'clock, made myself a nice little omelet for breakfast, and some coffee. Let me tell you, camp coffee is the best. It's kind of like a pour over method, and you know, like hipsters on the internet are always like, oh yeah, pour over coffee, it's the best, you gotta go with, you can't do anything else. Well, honestly, they're not wrong. I have a this like a camp kettle, and it has an insert into it for percolator coffee, but it doesn't work as a percolator, so I just take the basket off and set it on top of my coffee cup, and then pour the hot water into the basket and let it drip through the bottom into my cup. And it's so much better than other methods of coffee that I've tried. I actually originally bought a French press to bring on my camping trips because I thought that that might work, but French press coffee is gross, and I don't know why, but I've never been able to make it so that it tastes good. If anybody has any suggestions for how to make good French press coffee, please let me know, because I would love to be able to use that. But every time I've tried, it's just not good. So then after breakfast, which I took my time about and was very leisurely, I needed a shower, but the bathrooms here are closed between 10 and 11 for cleaning every day, and it was like 10 o'clock. So I had to wait until they were done cleaning, and then I went and took my shower, and now I'm here. And today, I think there is a, I'll have to check, but I'm pretty sure there was one yesterday, and I think there's another one today, where it's like a ranger-led hike down one of the trails, and I think that would be really cool to do. So I'm gonna, if I can get to that one, I think that's gonna be fun. And then there are a couple of other stops on the self-guided tour that I'm going to continue from yesterday to just see. There's one that's it's an elk prairie, which I drove by yesterday, but I didn't stop. I did see some elk, but the grass is really tall, so I could just like sort of see their back because they had their heads down and they were munching on it. So I might stop by over there and see. Because this area has a lot of elk, and especially when you continue further north, there's a lot of elk in Oregon too. I saw them last year. So, and today is going to be my last day here. Tomorrow I'm going to be heading out further up the coast. I am going to first stop at Crater Lake, which do not, if you have any chance, you must go to Crater Lake. The unfortunate part is that it's still very early in the season now, so if you're gonna go, I would go way later, like late July or August or September, because last year I was there at about this time and there was still like 4 feet of snow everywhere, and most of the park was closed, just the main visitor center was open. And that's probably going to be the case again this year, but I can't not go. It was the most beautiful thing that I have ever seen. You will never see a bluer blue. It is, the water is amazing. And someday I'm going to go back when it's later and the trails down to the water are actually open, and I am going to swim in that lake, and I don't care if it's 30 degrees. I'm going to do it. But that will probably not happen this time. And then I have a campsite about halfway up the Oregon coast. And then my next major couple of night stop is going to be up in Olympic National Park. So, well, nearby. I couldn't get a site in the park, but there's a nearby campsite that I found. So I am excited about that. And yeah, so when I have more to update you guys with, I will. I will see you next time. Bye!